how to support my well-being and the other person's.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a way to do that, I don't know what it is.
Right.
And I think that's something that's unequivocal. Whether it's theoretically possible is almost beside the point, because one thing that we can say is we can always get better at learning how to do that, and that we'd like to do it if we could. And actually, for me, the most essential nature of what I would call compassion is that human drive that I think is just kind of part of we are social mammals.
Yes.
And we prefer to see those around us well.
Mm-hmm.
And when we see those around us suffering, it causes us to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And that is for me the very root of what compassion means. It's this sort of deep wish or deep longing that everyone could just be okay and have enough.
Mm.
And we don't live in a world in which that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
And yet we all deep down wish that it could.
Mm.
And for me, if you can see the beauty in that situation, in that predicament of being, so like you are this beautiful animal that wishes everyone could be well, living in a world in which that isn't going to happen. And if you can see that wish actually makes you, is one of the things that makes you beautiful.
Right.
Then you can really kind of appreciate, at least for me, what I'm referring to when I talk about compassion.
Beautiful. Very, very beautiful. And to find that wellspring of that within each of us. And I like how you call us social mammals. We are. And we all want to belong, to be part of the herd, the tribe, whatever you want to call it. And concerned about the welfare or well-being of everyone, and to act in that regard to the best of our ability. Now, Tim Desmond, and by the way, this is Dr. Duffy Spencer. We are Just Relationships, WHPC 90.3. And I am interviewing Tim Desmond, who is a psychotherapist and author. On his book, he has two books, Self-Compassion in Psychotherapy and the Self-Compassion Skills Workbook. And you talk about learning powerful mindfulness-based techniques to help you motivate yourself with kindness. So is there anything else about that? You had talked about being harsh with ourselves is very unmotivating. Are there any other ways we can motivate ourselves with kindness?
I mean, I think that for some people it seems obvious, and for some people it seems almost impossible to imagine. But what I'd say, for most of us, the part that's difficult is creating the habit. So for a lot of us, we have an automatic kind of habitual way of criticizing ourselves.
Yeah.
And that self-criticism can be rooted in a lot of different things, but one of them is sort of the hope to be better.
Yes.
So we might recognize that I would rather have that internal critical voice turn into an encouraging kind of cheerleader voice.
Yeah.
You know, instead of when I spill my water glass on the floor, instead of saying "you idiot," being like, "It's okay," but these things happen. And sort of like a more kind of encouraging voice. the way that you'd hope someone else would respond to you, a good friend would respond to you.
Surely.
But it's hard to change that voice because it's what the psychologists Dan Kahneman and Amos Tversky would call our sort of system one, or our automatic pilot thought process. It's something that happens kind of on its own and instantaneously. In order to be able to change a habit, we need to practice.
Yes.
And it's just like learning a new instrument. It's just like learning a new language, that something starts off effortful, but the more kind of deliberate practice and effort we put in, the sooner that same skill or practice becomes effortless.
Yes.
It starts to get automatic. So the practice that I would recommend is whenever you notice that self-critical voice in you, whenever you notice sort of either feeling critical or ashamed or any type of negativity toward yourself because of a weakness or because of a mistake, to stop and ask yourself, okay, so how would a good friend talk to me in this moment? But if we really want to be able to turn that, to change our inner dialogue in the moment so that it becomes more automatic, then we need to engage in some deliberate practice. And what I would recommend is taking a few minutes each day to think back about any mistakes that I might have made or any times that I might have felt insecure or critical of myself, and actually take some deliberate time to reflect on how would I like to talk to myself, how would I like to relate to myself with more compassion, with more love, with more encouragement, and begin to sort of train myself in that way. And it's that sort of deliberate practice time that, if you stick with it, you begin to see your automatic responses changing.
Okay, this is so good, Tim Desmond. Okay, so are you suggesting that at the end of the day you review your mistakes and or self-criticisms, how you reacted to rather than responded to your mistakes, and then revisit it, rewind the tape, and go over them as if you were your own best friend, so to speak?
Exactly. And if in relationships, it can be the same way, because it's often one of the biggest difficulties in relationships, one of the biggest obstacles in having harmonious relationships is that a small problem in my relationship gets compounded by my own self-criticism.
Yes.
So my partner might sort of give me roll her eyes or give me some kind of a look, but my reactivity goes where it could just be at a 2, it goes up to an 8 or 9 because that look triggered a feeling of worthlessness in me, or it triggered some self-criticism in me. And if I can defuse that bomb, then I can respond to my relationship much more skillfully.
And you diffuse that bomb by kind of a self-talk like, everyone makes mistakes, life is trial and error, this is an oops, just an oops, and you didn't have an intention to spill that water on your friend's carpet, and thank goodness it was water and not red wine, right?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is you're a mammal, and mammals respond well to kindness.
Oh.
And they don't respond well to hostility. And just kind of recognizing you won't find a mammal that responds well to open acts of hostility.
Right. They'll aggress right back.
even if you're trying to train a dog,
yeah,
you know that you need an incredible amount of patience and kindness and perseverance if you want to be able to change that dog's habits. But we treat ourselves much worse than we'd treat a dog we're trying to train.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we kind of feel like somehow hostility is good for us, and it's just not.
Yes. When I think about, I'm also a psychotherapist, and when I think about how I am with my clients, I wish I would be that way more with myself and even with my husband. You know, the most intimate person in our lives, where we so-called let our hair down, is not good. And yet when, as a psychotherapist, I have that professional protection, if you will, and people pay me, we have an exchange of fee for service, because I don't have a vested interest in what they do. I don't have an agenda other than to help them get more of what they want and to find quality of life. But if they make another mistake and they keep making the same mistakes, I can have an inner sense of frustration at times because I want the best for them, and sometimes I will even share myself. I have to admit, I'm noticing there's a part of me that's feeling frustrated right now, and I don't do that a lot, but I do it at times.
But so we recognize. So first we recognize that authenticity is incredibly important, and fake kindness is probably worse than honest hostility.
Good point. And on that note, Tim Desmond, I am so glad that you are coming back next week for a second show, part 2 in this series. So I heard you say how important authenticity is, and we don't want fake kindness. We'd rather have open or acknowledged hostility. So everyone, listen up if you are interested, and I hope you are, and passionate and curious about the subject of self-compassion and compassion for others. Please tune in next week to Just Relationships. Thank you so much, Tim Desmond, Desmond. And this is Dr. Duffy Spencer saying goodbye for now and wishing you great relationships.